Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join us on this nice Wednesday for Seeding the Classroom session. So before we begin, I'll just do a quick seed acknowledgement. We care for the seeds because they have always cared for us. I'm sure we're all joining from different locations and on different nations' lands, and it's always good to take a minute to appreciate the seeds you grow and the land you live on. So the agenda for the meeting is from 4 to 4:20. We'll do introductions and some showcase of our seed stewardship resources. And then after that, I'll pass it over to Denise, who is a teacher partaking in the Citizen Seed Trial, to hear a bit about her experience. And if any of you are part of the Citizen Seed Trial, we'd love to hear about that too. And then we've left this meeting pretty open to share some roundtable updates and ideas of bringing agriculture into classroom, things that you've found successful, just a general sharing session. And we're also taking some notes for this session, and I'm sure Lisa might be able to add those to the chat. Everybody should be able to see those too. Yeah, so feel free to add your name, where you're from, and what ages of students you work with in the chat. Great. So just a bit of a background on these seed stewardship resources we've made is we started off in last year, 2022, creating 4 longer workshops that would take place, 2 in the fall and 2 in the spring. And they would the first workshops would be, figuring out what you want to plant. The second workshop would be planting, and then we would come back in the fall. And then we tested on this on different school ages with kids ranging from kindergarten to grade 6. And we were also in a couple high schools on Vancouver Island. So it has been tested on a few things. But what we realized from this pilot project is that our presentations were way too long and didn't allow the students to focus quite enough on the one topic. As well, the turnover of students from spring to the next year is a bit problematic for carrying on workshops that are continuous. So instead, we decided to make 13 individual presentations that can be used together or apart. And we also heard great feedback about our games and activities from teachers. So we focused on creating more meaningful activities instead of focusing more on slides. So the format of these resources is there's 13 total bite-sized lessons, is what we call them. And each bite-sized lesson contains a lesson plan with PowerPoint slides, printable activities, and says what the appropriate ages for each lesson is. We did on our website put the lessons plan in a suggested order. However, they can be used completely independently, and we tried to keep it really short, so each PowerPoint presentation only has 8 to 20 slides per lesson, with the goal that teachers could complete them in an entire lesson within a classroom period, quickly going through the slides and choosing an activity if they like. And the activities can also be used independently of the lesson plans. So I thought I would just walk us through an example of one of our bite-sized lessons, just to see kind of what's found in it. So each one has this lesson plan, which shows kind of the objective, anything you might need to do pre-lesson, some key words that might be good if you're to introduce to your class, and words that are important for that lesson. And then has the media, if we have any extra YouTube videos or anything else that goes along, maybe external other organizations that have complementary resources to our activities, and then also some activity options. So I chose to showcase our How Plants Make Seed presentation. I'm going to go through it quickly. We're not going to really learn. I'm just going to kind of show you how it looks. So yeah, this would be our first page, How Plants Make Seeds, and then we go through the seed acknowledgement. And then this one, it suggests beginning the lesson with a bean dissection, just to look at what's inside of the bean. We've got some pictures of what the helium is, the belly button of the seed, getting some hands-on activities, and then kind of goes over how pollen spreads and how pollinators found it, goes over the 5 key points. And then we added this little stop motion video. It's quite fun. It's a bit, it's maybe a bit for older students, but it's a fun stop motion video to kind of showcase how pollen travels and how different species, plants, bees, birds can all help each other. I'm not going to play the video, but it's quite fun. And then oftentimes we have some reflection questions to ask your students throughout the presentation. You could write down answers on the board or just kind of brainstorm. And then we show some of our resources, like this is from Seed Savers Exchange. It's an excerpt of their seed saving chart, which is we use quite a bit in our as a suggested resource for folks getting interested in saving seeds. And then a bit about what the difference between the annuals, biennials, perennials. And then that's it for that presentation, and the rest of the slides are just all about activities, because I think that's where the real learning happens. So we chose a whole bunch of activities that could go along with this lesson. The seed field game and matching cards, creating a Venn diagram, an active option, and a creative option of making your own motion video about some part of the pollination or seed production. So we hope that it can be flexible to meet the demands of whatever your classroom and students are. So like our seed matching game, it's quite popular. The objective is to familiarize ourselves with seeds from different plants. And each deck of cards has one plant with 4 stages of growth. And you start with the photographs facing up, and then you're trying to match the 4 that go together. So there's a picture of what you eat, the flower of that plant, what the seed is found in. Is it found in a pod? Is it found inside some leaf debris? Where is it? Is it in the petals? And then finally, what the seed itself looks like. And we are selling these ones online, but all of our activities are also, you can print yourself and print them out. We have all the PDFs up on our website, but in case you're interested, maybe Lisa can pull up the link for this seed matching game, because we've got some professionally printed versions now. And yeah, and this is a great activity, like I think for kids to work in groups together, especially like I've done it where I've brought 4 or 5 sets to a classroom and put the kids in groups of 4 or 5, and because it's quite challenging even for adults. It's a good game for kids to adults, I think. And but when kids work together, sometimes a few of them will know crops that the other don't. And then we like to add this little challenge, sort cards in terms of which make flowers, type of pollination, insect, wind, self, or annual. So they could take that Seed Savers Exchange chart and kind of use the 2 different resources to figure some things, to figure out the answers for that, which is definitely something we've done for some of the older age groups, is try to add a few more challenges where they kind of have to cross-reference different documents, as that's very important for being able to research, which is of course important for students learning how to do research. And then we've got the seed field game. This is definitely great for younger students, but can be done at all ages. And it's just blindfolds, and you try to guess what seed you're feeling, or even just see how different seeds feel. And it's just, I think it's important to get some tactile learning in there. Yeah. And then our Go Pollinator, Stop Pollinator game is basically just a modified version of red light, green light. The idea is the farther the students move, the farther their pollen blows. So you divide your class into 3 different groups: the self-pollinating plants, the insects, and the wind. And they all have different constraints. Like wind can run, insects can hop on 2 feet, but self-pollinating plants have to I'll have to do little hops, and insects can take bigger steps. And by the end of it, when you say stop, you can kind of point out how the wind kids have gone faster and their pollen has moved farther than the self-pollinating plants that are a bit have to hop. But then sometimes you can kind of showcase, like, let's say a self-pollinating plant, they really hopped really quite far, and you can say, well, sometimes that happens every once in a while. an insect will get carried by the wind and it goes really far. So that's how that happened. And sometimes we cross things that we don't expect to, because there's always exceptions in life. So that's that for that section. And then I'll just quickly show what it looks like on our website and how to find it. So if you're on our FarmFolk CityFolk website, you just go to what we do, and then we have it under our BC Seed Security Program, School Seed Stewardship. We have a bit of a table of contents and how to use it, and then we just have these little squares with all of them, with all the activities and things attached to each. So we've got ones for population sizes, seeds and biodiversity, genetics, phenotypes and genotypes, which might be greater for older students. If you're actually trying to save a seed crop with your class, we have that too. But of course, we'd love to see more seed crops being grown in schools. But even just having seed education, I think, is really great. And then we've also got, in case you're just interested in the activities, you can see we've got a list of games and activities, just all of the games and activities all in one place on our resource section, which is quite nice. We've got the instructions and then the printable games in case you're mostly interested in that. You can see like our seed saving crop cards. We worked with these of Farm to School BC. But yeah, and everything is totally printable, and we've tried to upload in multiple formats. And then we've also, Lisa here is actually a bit of a teacher. So she created curriculum connections in case you're curious of how this might connect to your curriculum and where you might be able to fit it in. Great. And then, so in case you're not part of the Citizen Seed Trial, we did put this out to educators outside of the Citizen Seed Trial, but the Citizen Seed Trial is been engaging home gardeners and passionate growers since 2016. Basically how it works is every year we kind of choose a bit of a theme, and we look at 2 to 3 varieties of the same crop. So we'll grow, this year we're doing peas, radishes, and salad turnips. So we've got 3 different varieties of each, and people grow them out and kind of get to see the differences between the varieties. So we look at things like germination, disease resistance, the harvest times, the planting times, and since it's replicated all across BC, we end up getting some really good data. And sometimes we use the Citizen Seed Trial to help out farmers, local farmers that are doing plant breeding work. Like last year, we were looking at the strawberry cherry tomato, which was grown by Fiona at Machosen Farms. She was hoping to release that tomato out to a larger audience, but needed to see how it compared to the industry standards, which for cherry tomatoes is kind of sun gold. So we'll do things like that. Like in our salad turnip trial, like Hakurai is considered a pretty stable, it's a hybrid variety. So people, it's usually sought after. It's a very popular variety to grow. So we are trying to see how that kind of staple one compares to other open pollinated varieties. And if you know stuff about seed saving, you need to save seeds from open pollinated varieties over hybrid. So it's nice to find varieties that are just as good as their hybrid competitors. So some of the benefits of our Citizen Seed Trial is you get to engage with plant breeders. We often have webinars throughout the season, and you get to try your chance at saving your own seeds if you're interested in that. It's not always possible for every trial, but we try to let you know how you can do that if you're interested. We've also heard from people that it helps them in healthy eating because it gets them into garden growing. It enhances your gardening skills. When you're looking at different varieties, you're kind of paying a bit more attention to it, I think, when you're partaking in a trial like this. Kind of, you might be more curious to figure out, you know, is that a pea weevil or is that something else eating my peas or what's going on? I think it sparks curiosity. And kind of, I think, unless you've grown a few varieties at the same time, you're not always so sure how different they are. And it's interesting to see how different varieties will perform very differently in the same environment. And I think one of the greatest part of the Citizen Seed Trial is you get to be part of a community. We have a really great Citizen Seed Trial Facebook group, which is really nice that people post and share pictures of their crops and where they are in their journey and can ask questions if they have anything that comes up. So you get lots of support that way. And then also SeedLinked, which is the program we use to evaluate online. There's opportunities. They have a bit of a what do you call it? Like a news page, and you can see in live time the results and see what other people have been saying about the same plants as you. And okay, I kind of went over this. Yeah, we're looking at radishes, peas, and salad turnips. And we chose kind of these early season crops this year to try to curate this trial a bit more for teachers. Teachers have taken part in our Citizen Seed trial in the past, but sometimes they've been crops like tomatoes or things that aren't really harvestable during the school year. So we're hoping to continue having some like an early season crop in our varieties in our trials in the future to kind of adjust better to the school year if folks are interested. So with that, I'm really happy to pass it over to Denise, who's just going to share a bit about her experience of the Citizen Seed trial. So thanks so much for joining us today. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. How do I stop? Stop. Oh, is it stopped?
Yep.
Okay, good. Great. Thank you.
Is my mic working?
Yes, you sound great.
Good. Okay. I teach grade 2 at Valley View, and I'm actually one of the teachers that's in charge of our school garden. We've been kind of reviving it since it kind of hadn't been doing anything for about a couple of years. So we found out about the Citizen Seed trial online through Facebook and sent it off to my coworker and said, hey, this would be a neat thing to do because we're growing vegetables anyway. So we opted for the peas and the radishes, figuring those would be the most likely ones for the kids to try to eat and be like, yeah, I'll give it a go. So we've tasted the radishes. It was interesting. They said the astragalus was really spicy, and they weren't expecting it to look like a carrot, as one kid said. And then they're like, it's really hairy too. So that was neat. And then we tried the rakes. They liked that one the best. And then our purple plum ended up with bugs in it. And we showed them and they're like, no, we're not trying that. So I'm like, okay, that's fine. Yeah, I asked them today kind of what their takeaways were. And one boy said, I liked watching how they shape shifted. And I asked him, I said, tell me more about that. He goes, well, they went from the seed and then we got a sprout and then a seedling. And then all of a sudden we were eating something. I went, oh, so, let's tie that into our science. There's our life cycle. And he's like, yeah, that's what I meant. So it's fun trying to hear him like, okay, figuring out the vocabulary for him to use. But we all had a good laugh with the shape shifting. Yeah, some of the other things they loved that they were in there and taking care of something and part of a scientific trial. And they'd like, oh, we got to go out and check and we have to water them and make sure we're taking care of them. And I had seed links on my phone. They're like, bring your phone so we can input our information. And so we'd like, okay, let's look at the appearance today. What do you say? Here's our scale. And they would tell me. And so they can't wait to try the peas. They're not really doing much yet. There's a few that have some flowers on it, but no peas yet. So they definitely would do it again. One thing they did say, they're like, we need more seeds. What the boy who said that, he goes, we need more seeds because I dropped some of them on the ground. So I'm like, it's okay. That's all about gardening with children. You think they're planting in one row and they're planting in a different row, or they end up on the ground. So it was kind of, that was one of theirs. And I noticed that when we were planting the peas, I gave them the peas and they're like, what is this? Don't we eat this? Why are we planting it? I'm like, well, you're eating the seed of the pea. So that was interesting that they don't know what part of the plants they're eating, and that they're like, well, we know we eat seeds from the sunflowers, but we didn't know the other plants. So we kind of the next couple of weeks before school wraps up, that's what we're going to go into, is looking at what part of the plants we eat. So, yeah, some other things. They would definitely do it again. They're hoping their grade 3 teacher will continue. If not, I know they'll be joining me in the garden at recess and lunch next year. Yeah, some of them said to mention, they're like, mention that you put a tag in the garden with the name of the plant and the date you planted it, so you know if it doesn't germinate in time, you need to replant. And they said use a string line. We used 2 chopsticks with a string so that any other class that goes in knows that, hey, we planted something there. Because we planted a row of carrots and we didn't have a string line, and then the kindergartens went in and had dug up our carrot seeds. So, but yeah, they were excited to share all their information with us, and yeah, we definitely would like to do it again.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much. Yeah, I like the idea of the chopsticks. I hadn't, because some schools have like, they each have their own box, but I know some schools kind of just have areas too, that they can plant in. So it can be, I like that trick.
Yeah, we've done it kind of like a community garden. And so people sign up, we'll say we need 5 rows of carrots planted. So they sign up and we'll tell them, we'll put them in bed number 5. And so we do the chopsticks when we remember, and the strings so they know that that's where something has been planted. It also helps the kids when they go to weed. They're like, okay, this looks like a carrot. This looks like a radish. This does not look like it. Take it out. So
that's brilliant. Yeah, for like some weeding and stuff. That's good.
Mm-hmm. So until they start, you look over and they're like, you just weeded our pea plant. Put it back in.
Put it back in. It's okay. Hopefully it doesn't mind transplanting.
Yeah, it survived. That little one is shorter than the rest, but it did survive.
That's fun. Yeah, it's been interesting to see what people have been saying about the ostergrass. Like it's definitely device. I don't know. Like it's definitely, everybody's interested in it. Like it's definitely a different looking radish. I'm kind of glad we included it, just to kind of show the variety of what kind of radishes can look like. I realized it was spicy, but I think I didn't like when I saw everybody being like how it's so spicy. I was like, oh my god, I guess it is a really spicy radish. Especially compared to the other two, because last year I only grew on ostergrass, so it was the only radish I was eating all summer. So I think I just got used to it,
Yeah. Well, some of the kids loved it. They're like, oh yeah, we really like it, and others don't. And I'm like, that's fine. So, but we do, because we grow lots of different things at the school, and we're also raising quail. So the kids have sampled quail's eggs, and with the different vegetables, we have a no thank you portion. So it's like you either get a yes please, which is a normal portion, or a no thank you, which is the tiniest little bit. And literally you can touch it, you can smell it, you can lick it, you can taste it if you want. But if you don't like it, then you're not throwing out a whole bunch.
Nice. That's a good way to go about it.
Yeah, Megan Zinni, who does a bunch of school gardening stuff, she gave that to a group I was in with last year, and she's like, it's perfect because it allows them to try something, but they're not throwing a whole bunch away if they realize like, yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, that's smart. That's really smart.
Well, thanks for sharing those takeaways too. I really enjoyed hearing the takeaways from the kids. That's great.
Yeah.
We've got a couple other people on the call. If you're part of the Cincy trial or want to share any ideas about agriculture in the classroom, feel free to unmute yourself or put in the chat.
Oh, I forgot I had my camera stopped too. I'm Liz. I'm calling in from New Hope territory. That's the Bella Coola Valley. And I personally signed up for the seed trial, but a grade 2 class contacted me. And so I gave them my seeds. which I had radishes and peas, and I do need to check and see how they're actually growing, but I also went in and did just a short presentation on seeds. And so I'm so grateful that you now have these resources, so I actually don't have to do that. I'm a public health dietitian, but I'm also a food security coordinator, and I have run a library. So seeds, that's what I try to do. I run the Seedy Saturday and a plant and seed swap. So anything with seeds, I'm happy to do. And I love it when the classes ask for me to do that. So one thing I found when I was putting together my presentation was, I don't know if you have this in your resources, is pictures of plants like snap peas, and then you get the kids up and they snap, and you do a string bean and they get really tall. And so I found that with the grade 2s, it was a really great thing to do, to introduce them to different types of seeds, but also to get them up and to calm them down. Because last one, I think it was the string bean. So they took a deep breath in and then they exhaled and sat down so we could get through the rest of the presentation. So I appreciate that you only have, like 8 slides or something. You do the younger classes. I think that's really great. I appreciate all you do for seeds. I mean, I've been associated with FarmFolk, CityFolk since like 30 years ago. To see the amount of seed stuff you're doing right now is amazing. Really appreciate all the work you put into it and that you share around.
Oh, thanks, Elizabeth. I've definitely seen your name so many places, familiar names. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like the idea of taking breaks during the thing, snap peas, and getting tall and pretending to be plants. That's it's important for the kids. Yeah, they have short attention span, some of them. Great. Well, I don't want to keep anybody too long, because I guess we're kind of come to the end of this. Unless anybody else wants to say anything, we could wrap up this meeting. Great. Well, Lisa?
Yeah, I guess if Rebecca is on the call, if you could just let us know. We were going to do a little draw, so it will just influence the draw whether we include you or not. So you can either put it in chat or you can unmute yourself and let us know. Otherwise, the draw will be pretty quick. Okay, well, maybe you stepped away, and that's cool. So I'll just do this random name. It looks like Elizabeth won the draw. So you'll get a little. If you can just put your email. Oh, there you are. Oh, I maybe spoke a little bit too soon, but anyway, we'll go with Elizabeth as the winner of the draw. So if you can just give me your email in the chat, I can email you a little link to the prize.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll send out these videos afterwards to everybody, and hopefully some people can get learn a bit about it. And yeah, we're really happy with our seed stewardship resources. It's definitely something we plan to add to as we go along, but we're happy to share the word. And I got to go to a farm to school conference last week, and because sometimes it's hard for us to know if people are using it, and then I got to meet some teachers that were saying, we've used your seed matching cards, and we've looked at some of the activities, and it's just really promising to hear. And we love to hear any feedback from your experiences with using these resources. So feel free to send any of us an email, and we love to hear it. So great. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.